wonderful session, Bhakti Yoga by Dileep Kaka Thatte. And let me go through the house rule first, and then I will introduce Dileep Kaka, and then I will hand over to him. So basically, the house rules are like, please keep your cameras off, mute yourself while the session is on. You can have in the speaker view, so you will be able to enjoy this session more nicely. And then if you have any questions, you can write it in the chat, but I will ask you to hold your questions till the end. So after the session is over, you can unmute yourself and you can ask questions, and then we can have some discussions on those points. But please mute yourself. Please keep your cameras off, so everyone will be able to enjoy this beautiful session. So now let me introduce Dileep Thatte. So Dileep is a student of science, spirituality, and Vedanta. He has received Vishwa Hindu Ratna Award for his contribution to the education of Hinduism. He routinely talks at high schools, universities, colleges, churches, mosques, temples, synagogues, and multi-faith congregations. He has presented papers at the Parliament of World Religions in Australia and Utah. Dilip Thatte has been a senior executive for major global corporation and has traveled extensively worldwide. An alumnus of Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, he has a MS degree in chemical engineering and an MBA. He is also a certified executive leadership coach from Georgetown University, Washington, D.C., and is active in coaching senior executives in US corporation, nonprofits, and federal governments. He currently works at National Institute of Standards and Technology, which we call as NIST, as a senior technical advisor. So now I present you all Dilip Thatte. So Kaka, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Aniruddha. Thank you very much for the introduction. Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. It's a beautiful day outside here in Maryland and probably in your respective cities. And yet you took the time to come here. Um, so thank you very much for coming, and we will have fun. We will have some good discussion after the talk as well. Before I start, I want to thank the MKM Executive Committee, as well as the President Aniruddha Bhakti, for organizing this, and Rajanita Zogarekar, who has been an organizer of the Uttaranga DC, for inviting me. I'm going to be using a few slides to support the talk. One of the reasons I want to share with you is when it comes to communication, at least in business communication, and that is true in general communication, that the more the senses that you stimulate or pass on the message to, the better the retention amongst the people, understanding and retention. So I could talk without the slides, but if I show slides and talk, you probably will pick up twice as much or maybe even 3 times as much. And that's why even in advertisement these days, when you get flyers, some of the flyers even have, especially for the dryer sheets and things like that, they even have flavor. So they not only show you, which is the visual, but they also stimulate your sense of smell. So as many senses as possible. So I will use a few slides, um, and we will, and if you have any problem reading them, let me know. Today's topic is Bhakti Yoga. Before I get to the topic, we had organized 5 lecture series. The first one I spoke about was Science and Vedanta. And there we established how science and Vedanta have exactly almost identical, very similar, inquisitive practices, and how Vedanta is very scientific in its inquiry into the truth. The recording of this is available on MKM YouTube. The next one we talked about was what is an overview of Hinduism? How do we explain Hinduism to the younger people, the next generation, in a nutshell, yet comprehensive fashion? And that was the seven stars of Hinduism, and that is also on the YouTube NKM YouTube. Then we thought one of the three of the seven stars of Hinduism are the three disciplines by which to get liberation. That is the Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. Last session we talked about Karma Yoga, and that's also it's in the on the YouTube recording. And what is interesting is after the discussion on Karma Yoga, we also slowly pivoted into the current situation of caste system, and there was a very good discussion on it, to the extent that many people have expressed a desire to have a panel discussion just on caste system sometime in spring, which we will probably organize sometime in the new year. Today's topic is Bhakti Yoga, and the next one, which is in January, will be the Gyan Yoga. That will be the last lecture of the 5 lecture series. So I just wanted to give you an idea, and what you have missed, you can get from the YouTubes of MKF. And today is we'll cover the Bhakti Yoga. Um, Bhakti Yoga has this image of old people sitting in the temple singing bhajans, and so younger generation feels that Bhakti Yoga is not for them. It's for older people who are retired or ready to retire, or those who don't have the intellectual, inquisitive mind and they just want to do bhajan. That is far from the truth. Bhakti Yoga is a preferred or recommended path by Bhagavad Gita, and it is a very easy to get onto, yet very difficult to master. And Bhakti Yoga involves significant involvement in the social activity and social helping the other people. So we will as I share some of my thoughts on this, subsequently we can have some discussion on this. So before I go, let me just quickly summarize. This is very important to explain to the younger generation, and you will notice that my talks, I try to focus so that this information, many of you are quite familiar with it, but you will be able to use this as tools in order to explain it to your children or grandchildren, because that is my focus, that we need to carry on our tradition in the next generations to come, and more the simplified and more the comprehensive, simplified and comprehensive, that we can be, the easier it is for us to let our next generation absorb this. So this is the model of a religion, and I've explained 8 different religions of India based on this model, and Hinduism is can follow this model, and you've heard about it. We talked about in the seven stars, and these are the seven key stars. You are familiar with this. We talked about it. 4 core principles, which are the Brahman, Atman, Brahman, non-duality, universality of soul, law of karma, and then Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga. And Patanjali's Raja Yoga is very, very important. It helps all 3 paths, and it is a very, very, very good way of preparing, especially for the Jnana Yoga. Um, and the in order for the younger people and us to remember the seven stars, there is a simple acronym that we had organized: Ask God Idea. Idea stands for Atma, one God, Atman Brahman, non-duality, universality of soul, law of karma, and path of intellect, path of devotion, path of action, which is idea. With that, let's get on with the Bhakti Yoga. The paths to moksha we talk about is Jnana, Bhakti, Karma, and we came to the point whereby we said you don't have to follow just one. In fact, none of us just follow one. We are a combination of all three. Our life is a combination of all three. We follow a discipline which combines all three. How much of jnana, how much of bhakti, how much of karma depends upon our disposition. But everyone has a little bit in it of all three. And Karma Yoga is a path of action, as you know. Bhakti Yoga is the path of devotion, which we will talk about. Jnana Yoga is the path of knowledge. And Patanjali's Raja Yoga allows you to basically follow all these three very effectively. One of the things which appeals to the younger generation are whichever whatever we teach is in line with their values. And I have identified here how the seven stars relate to what is popular and important for our next generation. We talk about universal consciousness, which is Brahman, one God, universal brotherhood. Atman Brahman non duality establishes universal brotherhood. Environmentalism, the same soul exists in a plant as it exists in us, so we are all connected and we better be environmentally conscious. Self determination, the law of karma, and we talked about the various types of karmas, and reincarnation, as well as the fact that we are a part of this ecosystem. So we are the custodians of earth. We cannot exploit the earth, and that message comes loud and clear in Hinduism, that we need to be in sync with the earth. We need to be in sync with the environment. And then, of course, there is multiple paths to liberation. So you are not restricted to one particular path for liberation. In this context, I will say that occasionally I may compare Hinduism to Abrahamic religions, because we live in a very Judeo Christian environment, and the largest religions practiced in the world are Christianity and Islam. And I respect all religions. Uh, However, they are different, there are differences, and as a result, in order to do some comparison, I might use some examples between the Abrahamic religions and us. The intention is only to drive home the point what we our religion teaches, rather than put down any other religion. I respect all religions. Let's get to the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the summary, as you all know, of all our Upanishads, which are the canon, the basic canon of Hinduism. And according to some people, Bhagavad Gita, the first six chapters are on Karma Yoga, the next six are on Bhakti Yoga, and the next six are on Jnana Yoga. However, some feel that all of the karma, bhakti, and jnana weaves right through Gita. And I'm of the opinion that there are shlokas pertaining to karma, bhakti, and jnana from chapter 1 to 18. So to me, Bhagavad Gita is a combination of three spread all across, and we cannot really segregate. There may be emphasis on these in three ways, but it is spread all across the book text. Now, people, because Bhagavad Gita is so ever comprehensive and so encompassing, people have taken a look at Bhagavad Gita and written or taken a position that which suits their interpretation, which is fine. Because it's a combination of all three, there are people who say Bhagavad Gita basically promotes Bhakti Yoga, such as Srila Prabhupada, who is the founder of ISKCON. If you read the beautifully written Gita as it is, it's all about bhakti. But then you read Lokmanya Tilak's Gita Rahasya, he feels that Bhagavad Gita is all about Karma Yoga. And in fact, he calls his Gita Rahasya Karma Yoga Shastra. That means it is all about Karma Yoga. Read the commentary by Shankaracharya, it's all about Jnana Yoga. And all of them are right. So Bhagavad Gita provides the all three in equal doses, but it depends upon who is looking at it. The reason I'm saying that is because bhakti is a very important characteristics of Bhagavad Gita. And one of the things I get that I feel as I read and dwell on Bhagavad Gita or think about it, that Bhagavad Gita also emphasizes that in the final analysis, the liberation or realization comes through jnana. Jnana is realization, and karma without jnana, means karma and bhakti should be supported by jnana. So karma without jnana is leads to greed and selfishness. You know, we have seen things happening in 2008 on Wall Street. You know, people were greedy and they did whatever was required to make their karmas so that they can make more money without without worrying about whose money they are taking, you know, from pensioners and widows and widowers and what have you. So this is very greedy and selfishness. So karma should be done with the jnana, and bhakti without jnana, bhakti without jnana is blind faith, and bhakti without jnana can lead a person to uh, useless activities, or can make the person intolerant towards other, can allow the person to get some hatred towards others. So bhakti should also be supported by jnana. And of course, jnana by itself is fine, but it does not help other people. So jnana plays a very important role in both karma and bhakti. That is the point I want to make. That Bhagavad Gita is full of all these three, but it keeps Krishna keeps emphasizing to Arjun that, you know, you need to know that there is such a thing as Parabrahma, or universal consciousness, and that is manifested in me, which is Krishna. So, what is universal consciousness? Well, it's Nirgun Nirakar, it's non-judgmental. It is Satchit Anand, absolute truth, infinite intellect, and eternal bliss. That is Satchit Anand. And what is interesting is in Bhagavad Gita, as I read it, it's my interpretation, that Sri Krishna sometimes says some shlok as though he is Brahman, which is universal consciousness, such as a shlok like Bijam Ma Sarva Bhutana Viddhi Partha Sanatana Buddhir Buddhimatamasmi Tejas Tejas Vinasvaham. That I am the seed in every living thing, and I am the the brilliance of the brilliant ones. I am the intellect of the intelligent ones. There he's talking that when he says I, it is not just Sri Krishna, it is the Brahman, which is represented by Sri Krishna. और अहम आत्मा गुडाकेश सर्वभूताशय स्थित अहम आदिश्च मध्यश्च भूतानाम अंत एव च. I am present in every living thing. I am there before the beginning. I am there during the lifetime, and even afterwards when the body is gone, I am still there. That is that Brahman, or the Atman part of the Brahman. So that is not Sri Krishna, but Sri Krishna representing the Brahman. Whereas in some other shlok, he is talking to Arjun as his friend, as his advisor, as his sakha. For example, see when Arjuna says, Siddhanti mama gatrani mukhancha parishishyati, in the second chapter or first chapter, he says that I cannot fight. I'm looking at my uncles and uh, cousins, and Siddhanti mama gatrani, I am completely losing my stability, and my mouth is dry, and I'm sweating. At that point, Sri Krishna takes a position of a friend, an advisor, a well-wisher. So he suddenly becomes Saguna. So what I'm trying to say is that Sri Krishna all the philosophical and important things that when it comes to teaching philosophy, whether when it comes to showing the universal form, he is taking a position of being universal consciousness Brahman. Whereas when he comes to one-on-one basis, when he wants to advise Arjuna, when Arjuna wants to talk to him as an individual, as a friend, as an advisor, he is taking a position of a Saguna. That means an individual, that means like Sri Krishna. And that is the life of Sri Krishna. Means when he's playing with the gopis, he is Sri Krishna. But when he comes to teaching what is right and wrong to the Rakshasas, he suddenly takes a form of a universal consciousness. The reason I'm mentioning this is because we need to be careful about which slok, where, what is the role Sri Krishna playing in while reciting or while giving the advice in which slok, because it has an impact on how we interpret that. So, what is Ishvara? If Brahman is Nirgun Nirakar, if it is non-judgmental, it's Satchitanand, so then what is Ishwar? Ishwar is the manifestation of the Brahman, uh, and it is essentially a need of individuals, us. Right from the beginning, from our birth, we live in a world of limits. We grew up with the world of limits, and we relate everything to the world of limits. And as such, it is very difficult for us to focus on something so abstract as Nirgun and Nirakar. And that's where the concept of Ishvara comes. And it is a beautiful part of our religious tradition that we have Nirgun Nirakar as well as Sagun Sakar, both, and it is the choice is given to us. And in the final analysis, there is only one truth, but you can have you can head for that truth through different means, which is through Sagun Sakar. And the reason I bring that up is because bhakti, when it comes to bhakti yoga involves Sagun Sakar. Jnana Yoga can do some Jnana sadhana in a nirgun fashion, because they can do some samadhi and meditation. But Bhakti Yoga involves Saguna. Saguna, so suddenly it has form and properties, and you need to have that Shraddha and Bhakti. Now, I want to distinguish between Shraddha and Bhakti. Shraddha is a concept, Shraddha is philosophy, Shraddha is very abstract, Shraddha is faith, whereas Bhakti is performance, and Bhakti is practical, manual, and Bhakti is expression of that faith. So you have to have Shraddha that God exists and this is my God, but the Bhakti makes you do some things for the love of that God. And Bhakti Yoga is all about love. So remember, Bhakti is all about love. Now, what is interesting is I mentioned comparison a little bit. In Abrahamic religions, Bhakti is the only way. In fact, there are very interesting stories about how Bhakti is the only way in Christianity and in Islam. In Christianity, apparently, uh, Gandhi, somebody was asked, a Christian priest was asked when Gandhiji was there uh, 70 years ago, 80 years ago, that will Gandhiji go to heaven? He's done so much of non-violence, satyagraha, he's been a good person and he has helped people. Will he ever go to heaven? And the answer was that no, unless he surrenders himself to Jesus, gates of heaven are not open to him. So the Shraddha goes to the point that, even for a person like Gandhiji, uh, the gates of heaven in Christianity were not open according to some people, because he had not taken or surrendered to Jesus. An interesting story in that context is, I was just reading somewhere that um, Mormon Church, Church of the Seventh Day Adventist, is so respectful of Mahatma Gandhi. They respect him so much that they do want him to go to heaven. So what they have done is, it is as late as the 2010 or 11 or 12, around that time, they actually posthumously baptized Gandhiji so that he could go to heaven. So one can go to large extents, um, but in Hinduism, that kind of dogma or that kind of rigidity does not exist. And we have the ability to get liberation and realization through karma, through jnana, through bhakti, along with other two. Um, Saints of India have always demonstrated this concept. If you look at the north, Mirabai, Kabir, Tulsidas, Surdas, these folks were jnanis, but they did work, they did through bhakti. All the support to the society was through bhakti, and but they had the support of Gyan. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Bengal area in the east, in the west, which is Maharashtra, and a lot of our attendees today are from Maharashtra. So we are all familiar with these names: Namdev, Gyaneshwar, Tukaram, Samarth Ramdas, and even some of the newer saints such as Tukudoji Maharaj and Swami Swarupanand. I even put down Gurudev Ranade. He was a brilliant man, academic saint. He was saint as well as he was an academician. So these people were they followed bhakti, but they were supported by that bhakti was supported by jnana. So it was not a blind faith. It was a well thought out, organized faith in terms of bhakti. In the south, the Alvars and Myanmars, in fact, the Bhakti movement in India started in the south in the 7th, 8th century, and then slowly it percolated up to the north by the 13th, 14th, 15th century or so. And these were Bhakti saints were the followers of Shiva and Vaishnava tradition, both. What is interesting is Bhakti is mentioned in the Upanishads. Um, Shraddha and Bhakti is mentioned in the Upanishad, but Bhakti got really a boost in the Puranic literature. As you know, there are about 18 Puranas, and I've listed a few of them here for your benefit: Brahma, Padma, Skanda, Narada, Vishnu, Shiva, Matsya, Bhavishya Purana. And each Puran is at least 10,000 plus shlokas. Some of them are as many as 60,000 shlokas, 70,000 shlokas. And but in the Puranas, there are beautiful stories. Some of them are very interesting, and its Puranas are full of bhakti and full of various saguna deities. As you can see, Shiva Puran is all about Shiva, Vishnu Puran is all about Vishnu, and that's where the bhakti got a real boost in terms of. Okay, I have a slide here on Ishvara. So all the deities are manifestations of the Brahman. So these deities are not idols. So my one request I have for you is, let us stop calling these idols. It is very commonly used word by Hindus, by non-Hindus. By non-Hindus I can understand because they don't know. But by Hindus, let us call them deities, which are uh, really the murtis, or murtis, because uh, they are not just idols, they are deities. We see Brahman in them. They are manifestations of Brahman. They are not just idol is a putla in Hindi, or putala in Marathi. They are not a putala or putla. They are a murti. They are a deity. So let's make sure that we keep talking about that so that our next generation stops using our deities and calling them idols. There's enough of other people who call them idols. So, and this shlok, which is all garbled up here, is actually a shlok from Bhagavad Gita that we have many, many deities, and I will get to that as you can see the pictures in the bottom. But there's a very nice shlok in Bhagavad Gita where Sri Krishna says, now don't forget that he is the Brahman and he can take any particular saguna sakar roop or the form that he wants. So here is a shlok: yo yo yaya tanu bhaktaha shraddharchitumachyati tasya tasya chala shraddha tameva vidadyamah. That means whatever may be the form in which the devotee uh, uh, praise me, worships me, I will come to him to assure his faith in that particular form. He is not saying that you pray to me only in the Krishna form. He is saying whatever form, yo yo yaya tanu bhaktaha, yo yo yaya tanu, whatever the form a bhakta praise me or worships me, I will come to him in that. So there is a significant amount of flexibility, and that's why we have, uh, and that is needed because we have so many deities. This Ekam Sat Vipra Bauddha Vadanti, this is also a very, very uh, secular, if you will, broad statement of Hinduism, which I'm very proud of. Uh, let's go to the next one. The 33 koti. There is a common usage that we have 330 million deities, 33 koti deities. Well, koti word has two different meanings in Sanskrit. Koti means crores, yes, but koti also means type. Koti koti, that means different types. Of the 33 types of deities Vedic in the Vedic worship. Vedic civilization, the Vedic folks, they used to worship all of the things from the environment and from the cosmos. So they worship the elements that sustain them, such as the earth, the wind, the fire, the water, um, the sun, the moon. They worship the constellations because they saw it, they studied it, and they knew that they felt that there was some impact of that onto the earth, and hence in turn onto them. And then they worship some of the personal things, such as the knowledge, such as the thought, such as our breath, and they felt that those are important things, and those were the characteristics of Brahman. And of course, the Shiva was the name given. Shiva was the main deity for the Brahman. So various names of the Shiva. So the way it works out to be 33 is Indra was the king of the heavens, Prajapati was the king of the land, and then there are eight Vasus, which is, as you can see on my slide, it's listed there. These are the material elements. The 12 Adityas, which are the constellations, and then 11 Rudras, which are the names of Shiva and characteristics of Brahma together. So that adds up to 33. So if somebody says, "Oh, what a religion? You got 33 crores or 330 million deities," um, there are many explanations on that, but this explanation to me, in my research, felt made a lot of sense. That this is what the Vedas talk about when they talk about 33 crore or 33 koti deities. Now, uh, when it comes to explaining to people, now you are all very familiar with what I'm showing here, so I won't spend time in explaining this. But when it comes to non-Hindus who are confused with all these deities, I basically tell them that there is a trinity in Hinduism. There is a creator, there is a sustainer, and there is a transformer. Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. Now, one request, yet another request I have of you is Brahma is called creator, and we call it creator. We explain it to other people as creator. Vishnu is called sustainer. That's what we do. But Shiva, we call it destroyer. And I would like to change that terminology to call him transformer, because there is nothing, as a scientist, you know very well, and I know that not, energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transformed. And Shiva is indeed a transformer of uh, your life from one life into the other life. So he and destroyer has a bad connotation, negative connotation, whereas transformer has a positive connotation. So I would like to start calling Shiva, I request you to start calling Shiva as a transformer and not a destroyer. One request. And of course, you know their consorts, Saraswati, Lakshmi, Parvati, and then their vehicles. So what is interesting is, and there is a lot of rich mythology, some Puranic stories about all of them. There are Purans dedicated to Brahma Puran, Vishnu Puran, Shiva Puran, Narad Puran, and there are all kinds of stories. You all know about it. And slowly, all of them became deities or important deities on their own over a period of time. So it's not only the Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh that we worship, but we also worship Saraswati, Lakshmi, Parvati. In fact, we also worship Nandi, one of the things. And all of them have families. So Ganesha, one of the deities that I worship, is a son of Shiva and Parvati. Subramanyam Swami or Kartikeya is the other son of Shiva and Parvati. So there are families, and they also become deities. Um, in fact, what is interesting is over a period of time, the Hindus' flexibility. Look at the flexibility of Hinduism. That because in the south there is a deity who is a representation of Brahman for many people, and he's called Ayyappa. And Ayyappa is the son of Shiva and Vishnu. When Vishnu had taken the Mohini Swarup, and Shiva and Mohini had a son, and that is Ayyappa. So my read or understanding or interpretation is there was probably some animosity, some competition, some disharmony between the Shaivites and the Vaishnavites. So somebody came up with uh, this Puranic story about Shaivas and Vaishnavas getting together, Vishnu and Shiva getting together, and before you know, Ayyappa is born, and now Ayyappa is respected and revered and worshipped by Vaishnavites as well as Shaivites. What a beautiful concept of establishing harmony in the society. But Hinduism provides that flexibility, and we see these pictures, these stories, or instances all over. So there are four main schools on the Bhakti Marg. There are four main schools: Vaishnavism, Shaivism, Shaktism, and Smartism. And we will be a little bit Vaishnavism, as you know, are followers of Vishnu, and these are all the okay. These are all the Vaishnavites. You can see that there is more bhakti in the Vaishnavism than anywhere else. But you can read all of these Gaudiya Vaishnavism with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's where the ISKCON Hare Rama Hare Krishna movement started. Then Swaminarayan Sampradaya is very popular, very effective. Hats off to them. Bhagwan Swaminarayan is a part of the Vaishnavism. Uh, but that is one way when they basically look at Brahman, universal consciousness, through Vishnu, and that is the Vaishnavism. Vallabhacharya, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Nimbakacharya, these are all Vaishnavites. Shaivism. Shaivism, Veera Shaiva is very popular in the Karnataka area, and then Kashmir Shaivism in Kashmir, Shiva Siddhantam, oops, and Sadhu tradition. Sadhu tradition is typically that of Shaivism, and you all are familiar with some of it. um, Vaishnava Guru, Linga, Jangam, whatever you want to call it. These are great traditions. Um, uh, Now, and then Shakta. Shakta are the worshippers of Shakti, Durga, because Kali or Durga is the symbol of energy and strength and enthusiasm and what have you. So as a result, just like Lakshmi is the symbol of wealth and Saraswati a symbol of talent. However, over a period of time, the has Divine Mother has taken forms in all of these three things. So Shakta believe in all three, Durga, Lakshmi, and Saraswati. In fact, Shakti is the energy. So Shaktism deals with the goddess, and Smartism is probably introduced around the 8th century, 9th century, 8th century by Shankara. Now, antiquity of all of these is in question because we don't know exactly when this happened, but this is what the general consensus is. And it was introduced in order to bring again the society together. There was too much of division between Vaishnavites, Shaivites, and Shakta. So Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya, he started this smart. Smart is they worship five deities, Pancha Devatas. These are Shiva, Vishnu, Shakti. So all three are combined, and then they also added Ganesha and Skanda. Skanda is the Kartikeya or Murugan or Subramanya, and they also worship Surya. But Smartism is a levelized general approach to bhakti, and any one of them can be followed. In Maharashtra, Ganesh is a popular deity, whereas in Bengal it is the Durga. In the north, it's a combination of Vishnu and Shiva, and so is true in the south. Bhaktas. Now, we talked about uh, uh, the deities who are uh, deities to be followed, who represent or who are the manifestations of Brahman. Now, what kind of, so that is the whom we do the bhakti. Now, what about the bhaktas? So there are four types of bhaktas, and many of you are familiar. Bhagavad Gita talks about four types of bhakta: Arth, Arthat, Jidnyasu, and Jnani. I've quoted the shlok there. Chaturvida bhajante majana sukrutino urjana. Arth, Jidnasa, Jidnyasu, Artharthi, and Jnani. Arth are the ones who are stressed. I give the example to the kids that if you're driving and you're speeding up a little bit and a cop notices you on his radar, starts coming behind you with a flashing light, and then suddenly you're trying to pull up on the shoulder and you're saying to yourself, "Oh God, I hope that there's something else so that he gets called away." And or yeah, I hope he had a good day this morning. God help me so that I don't get a ticket. That is a classic, simple, day-to-day example of an art. I think of God when I'm in trouble, and most of us do that. But that's the art. Arthat is the one who wants to make a deal that that's God, 10% of my profits from next year's returns on my portfolio will be donated to you, provided you continue to get the stock market going the way it has been going. These are the kind of things a lot of us do mannat, or in Marathi navas. Again, this is Arthat. Is it because you're making a deal? Sometimes, but a lot of times it's because psychologically you feel that if I do this and it does happen that I my expectations fulfilled, my asha akanksha are fulfilled, then it is the grace of God. So I owe it to the god to a certain percentage or whatever. So arthartha are it's another kind. Then jijnasu are the ones who are seeking that, okay, is there really a God? Let me look for it, and then they tend to pray to the God, because just in case there is a God, just in case I need blessing before I go for my interview or for my exam, let me make sure that I've covered all the bases. And then, of course, the Jnani are the ones who know that there is universal consciousness, and what whom I'm praying is a representation, it's a manifestation of that consciousness, and it is my karma which is going to get the results. However, praying to this God will give me the peace of mind so that I can focus with all my might into the whatever the work or whatever I'm going to be involved with. So these are the four types of bhakta Bhagavad Gita talks about. So we talked about bhakti and we talked about bhakta. But how do you do the bhakti? And this is very interesting. A lot of literature, Puranas talk about Navavidha Bhakti, nine types of devotion. In fact, those of you who are familiar with Marathi, they're familiar with Das Bod. Das Bod talks about nine types of Navavidha Bhakti, and there is a complete nirupan, complete explanation of each of those. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Vishnu Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivodhanam. I've listed these out, and some of them are very obvious. Shravanam is listening to the glories of the Lord. Kirtanam is singing the glories of the God. Smaranam is chanting. Uh, Pada Sevanam, as the word goes, uh, while serving people, thinking of Him. Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam. 3 points I want to make here. You can read the details of each definition of each of these. The 3 points are these. Number one, the bhakti is full of love. So bhakti to me, bhakti's interpretation, even Swami Vivekananda has made that comment. The bhakti yoga is the science of higher love, and it is not that you're not going to do anything. In fact, the Bhakti Yoga emphasizes that Manav Seva is Madhava Seva, or Manav Seva is Keshava Seva. You need to help serve the humanity, but while you are serving the humanity, you are visualizing your God, your Ishta Devata, your selected deity in that individual whom you are serving. Marathi saints used to say, those who are followers of Panduranga, or Tukaram used to say in Marathi, Mala Panduranga disto त्याच्यामध्ये. I see Panduranga in that particular person. How can I not help him? Namdev used to help all the downtrodden people because he saw Panduranga in those people. That is bhakti. So you're not actually sitting in the temple. Bhakti is not only sitting in the temple and singing bhajans. Bhakti is, yes, that is a part of the bhakti. But bhakti is looking at every other human being, every bhuta, matra, not just the human being, even the animals. But let's start off with the human being as a representative, as though you are selected Ishta Devata, you are selected deity. He resides in them. That person is that. And from that perspective, I must admit and admire that some of the Christian missionaries, their sense of bhakti is fairly high, because they serve humanity. Now, whether they see Christ in everyone, I don't know, but this is what our saints used to do. Um, when you serve people, you are looking at them as uh, as God. So that is one point. Secondly, what is interesting is in our tradition, the love for God, and in turn love for human beings, can be transformed into anything. It can be that as a friend, it can be that as um, a Sakhyam, as a Dasyam, which is as a servant. You can serve a person as a servant, you can serve a person as a friend, um, you can serve a person as a deity, whatever. You've heard of the Atiti Devo Bhava. Everything is Devo Bhava. It's like, like a deity, and that flexibility exists in our tradition. In fact, in one of his lectures, Swami Vivekananda has said that the basic disciplines of bhakti are viveka, which is discrimination. You need to make sure that you're doing bhakti with the bhava, with the tendency of service. Um, Vimok, which is you see the chosen God in the other person, and then kriya, you should be helping the other person. Kriya becomes a very duty, becomes a very important part of the bhakti, and kalyana. Always make sure that whatever you're doing is helping the individual, and the bhakta has to be strong physically, mentally, and emotionally. You cannot be weak, so bhakta has to be a strong. So a strong bhakta who has selected his ishta devata, who out of love for his Ishtadevata, to the extent that he sees in every other living thing his Ishtadevata, is the ultimate of bhakti. And that is, so ultimate of bhakti is love for your Ishtadevata, and you see that love in everyone, everywhere, in everything. So Bhagavan Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, what are the beautiful, or what are the characteristics, or what kind of devotees I like, and that summarizes what I have been saying. Adveshta sarva bhutana, maitra karuna evacha, nirmamo nirahankara, samadukha sukhakshami. He who hates no creature, who is friendly and compassionate to all, who is free from attachment and egoism, balanced in pleasure and pain, and is forgiving, is the bhakta which I like. Santushtam satatam yogi yatatma dhrudha nishchaya mayyarpita manobuddhir yomad bhakta sametriya. Ever content, happy, content, steady in meditation, self-control, possessing firm conviction, and with the mind and intellect dedicated to me. Again, here to me, he means not Krishna as a deity, but Krishna as the Brahman, universal consciousness, is dear to me, because the moment you look at anybody dedicated to universal consciousness, you recognize that the other person has an ansh of that universal consciousness called Atman. So you start seeing Krishna in the other person. And the last one I would say is Matkarma Matkarmo Madbhakta Sangha Varjita Nirvaira Sarva Bhuteshu Yasamameti Pandi. He who does all the actions for me, who looks upon me as the supreme, and is devoted to me, who is free from attachment, who bears enmity towards no creature, he comes to me. So Bhakti and Bhagavad Gita has many shlokas show that Bhakti Yoga is much superior to Jnana Yoga, because it is uh, possible for everyone to follow this rule. It does not mean that it is lots, it's very easy, but it certainly is accessible, better accessible than Jnana Yoga. So Bhakti with Gyan, combined with Gyan, is the way to go. Um, with that, I think I spoke for about, I'm going to say 45 minutes. And yep, 45 minutes. And I will start here, and I will say that let's open for some discussion and some questions so that we can have some good discussion. Again, I what I presented to you, my friends, is my interpretation of Bhakti Yoga based on the text that I have studied. You may agree with me, or you may have some different views, which I respect. But once again, my focus is always to make sure that the tenets, the key nuggets of our tradition are related to the current situation and communicated effectively to the next generation so that they develop some interest in our tradition and continue to carry this tradition after us. With that, I will
I think we lost Dilip Kaka, looks like. So, Charuta, you can stop the recording.
Okay.